set my feet on holy ground.
All right, everybody, we're back. We're going to have Rudy chiming in along with his attorney, Markowitz, attorney for Jeffrey Weinhaus, Markowitz, in just a few moments. We're out in our courtyard today, and we've been broadcasting from our courtyard. Even our Sabbath worship services, Sunday worship services are here. People are coming in. Cameras will pick them up a little bit later. And they're just sitting here watching us, and they're having coffee and tea. And pastries are served by our church mother, One. And so you can see a part of that as they're behind Sabbath as that is presently going on. And so Sabbath, you had raised a question a few moments ago.
I stated as of recent that Fox have stated that they are changing their slogan to fair and unbalanced, and they will no longer carry the slogan fair and unbalanced. So my question
fair
was...
Fair and balanced or unbalanced?
Yeah, fair and So is
fair
this
and balanced?
Fair and balanced.
You said unbalanced.
Yeah, fair and balanced.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I thought they'd come up with a new one.
No. It is fair and balanced.
Right.
So my question to
That's
you
what they
is...
used to call themselves.
Is this a rebranding of Fox, or what do you think that they're trying to do with this?
Well, there are several things, and if I can remember them in this late stage of my life. Number one is that they have fallen greatly in the ratings now since Roger Ailes' departure and Bill O'Reilly. So they're trying to regain an audience. They're trying to regain a footing.
Right.
They recognize that there is not an appetite out there anymore for the kind of rhetoric, conservative rhetoric, that was promoted by Bill O'Reilly and by Roger Ailes. That appetite is not out there anymore. I think the other thing, Sabbath, and I will stand corrected if I'm wrong on this one, I think they realize, probably people immediately disagree with this, but what they have to agree with is that Fox is losing ratings, they're losing in the ratings, they're losing in audience, and as I said on the other side of the break, their commentators and reporters are not really genuine stomp down. They're all going to the liberal media. But I think, Sabbath, that they don't want to go down with Trump. I think they recognize at some point, America ain't going to be crazy all these days. And they're going to recognize this man's a con man from way back when. He's a flim-flam. He's just what he called James. He's a showboater. He's a big showboat man. And I think Fox recognizes, I think they get a sense, because they're reading their audience, that this man is losing people.
Right. And
that's why they're losing people. And they don't want to go down with him. When all is said and done, historically about Trump, he's going to be depicted as one of the most despicable persons that have, and unfit. I mean, if he's a real estate dealer, hustling real estate or insurance or selling used cars, then stay with selling used cars. But he don't represent nobody as the president.
Yeah.
He's just unfit.
Yeah.
And I think Fox recognizes that. And they don't want to go down with Trump. Here, let me say this. And people who like Trump and like Fox are mad with me for saying that. But it don't, anyway. Suppose I said, Sabbath, after I realized I used to be able, my ratings, I used to have, I put up a video, I got 100,000 views. In a week, I had 500,000 views. In 2 weeks, I had 1 million views.
Right.
I used to have a powerful rating, is that right? The Manning Report, right? Or what we did.
Yeah.
We used to have a high rating.
Yeah, we did.
Now, we put up a video, we can barely get 1,000. Now, the word gets out. I don't know how and why or what, but the word still gets out. Suppose I said, Sabbath, that in order to get that audience back of 100,000 people on the first day we post, at 500,000 in 3 days, to get that audience back, I take back the things I said about Trump, right? I get back on the Trump train.
Yeah.
I take back the things I said about Obama. Well, I keep those. But I compromise what I really believe. I change my fan balance.
Yeah.
I change righteousness
to
whatever's good for the moment, so I can get that audience back again. Having 100,000 people looking at your video the first 2 hours you put it up, man, that's power, right? All I got to do is get them back. Or I couldn't probably get them, but get some of them back is start singing Trump Train again. And that's what Fox News is doing. Fox recognizes on the opposite of that, I should say, that this Trump audience ain't what it's trumped up to be. And they're trying to find a liberal, more, not necessarily liberal audience, they're trying to find a sane
They're trying
audience,
to find, yeah.
right? Because I got a ratings issue. We're not rated the way we used to be, you know?
And I don't think they're ever going to be back on top again.
No, I don't think they're going to be
I doubt
at
it.
that level ever again.
Yeah.
I don't think so. You're right. But have you noticed any weakness in the ministry? I think one of the ways that we challenge it is by our giving is still strong. I think we can still give. And a lot of really very visible people are no longer with us anymore.
Yeah.
But so if that answers your question about where Fox is at.
Yeah.
They're in a dilemma now. They
Quite
got to find a new audience.
Yeah.
And they're not going to try to, they're not looking for the Trump audience anymore. Now, they don't want to offend them, but they don't want to, they know that audience is not sustainable. Not if they're going to stay in the television business.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting about that is they've had that slogan of fair and balanced for so long. And as you stated now, just to try to get the people to come back, they are basically changing who they are. Though who they are was not really a great thing to begin with, but they're changing who they are just to gain the favor of the people.
Well, is it going to work? You know, I don't think so.
Not to the level that they wanted to.
No, I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah.
I think probably, I don't think Tucker Carlson has really been a dynamic personality. You know, you say what you want to say about Bill O'Reilly. He was a dynamic personality.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Don't like him or don't like him.
Yeah, there was no doubt about that.
The boy was dynamic.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why people watched it. They didn't necessarily like Bill O'Reilly. He was just dynamic.
Right.
Yeah, this is probably going to get me in a little trouble. You know, a lot of people watch me. They don't like me. They just like what I do. I mean, they don't like me. People don't. But they think I'm funny or they think I'm brave or courageous. I am who I am. It's Popeye the Sailor Man. I am. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
I think we have my caller.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I love to go swimming with bow-legged women. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. So I don't know. I think that if I tried to be nice, I think I would lose people rather than gain people back. Anyway, I think we've got Rudy on the line. And we got Rudy on the line. We'll have Rudy.
Peace, brother.
Hey, Rudy, I'm out here in the courtyard. You know the courtyard, right? Yeah, we're out here today. Praise God. Listen, do you have the attorney Markowitz on the line? We'd have him. Do we have him yet? Didn't get him yet? Rudy, I know that y'all tried very hard to get through last week and were unable to do so. But we're not going to stop this. We got Markowitz on the line. Attorney Markowitz, are you with us now?
Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning, sir. It's a real honor to have you on Demanding Report. I've never met you, but I understand you represent a client named Jeffrey Weinhaus, who has been railroaded into 30 years of prison for simply exercising his constitutional right and trying to do something about some of the wickedness and I think unjust things he saw. So for that reason, I thank you for taking the time to appear on this broadcast. And let me say, Markowitz, you're an attorney, you're a lawyer, so you understand the law quite well. I've asked you and Rudy to come on today because I want you to tell our audience why you believe that your client was railroaded and he's innocent, or what you believe about that. And Rudy, and I'm going to turn the conversation, Rudy, you can do the interviewing or you can chime in when you want. But Rudy, we got a whole lot of people on your list of prisoners we need to highlight. And this is our third week on Jeffrey Weinhaus. But I believe that a lot of things that are going to be said today by Rudy, by you, and by Markowitz It's going to help a whole lot of other prisoners whose name we're going to call a little bit later on. So Attorney Markowitz, I'm going to turn the mic over to you and to Rudy, and we're going to all chime in when we feel that we need to do that. You got the floor.
Thank you very much, Pastor. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to yourself and to your listeners. It's not often that an attorney has an opportunity to actually right a wrong. There's a difference between defending one's rights during a criminal trial or even through a civil trial when you're trying to exercise your rights in a contract matter or family dispute or whatnot. But it's another thing when you have an opportunity to actually right a wrong. Just under about 9 months ago, I was having breakfast with a friend of mine. Michelle Fiore is a recently elected city councilwoman out here in Las Vegas. We've both been politically involved in the local area, and we were discussing matters that were current. And she tells me, after I discussed with her some of the things I was working on, she tells me that there's somebody I need to talk to. And I said to her, who? And she says, this gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Weinhaus. He's doing 30 plus years in Missouri, and I think you can help him. And I said, well, what happened? What was he convicted of? And she tells me he was convicted of attempted murder of a police officer. And I said to her, I want nothing to do with him. And she says, why? And I said, quite frankly, if he's convicted of attempted murder of a police officer, he must have done something really stupid to get himself convicted of attempted murder of a police officer. He says, but there's a video. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, there's a video that took place during the interaction with the officers that you need to see. And by this time, other persons had been involved. Gavin Simon is an advocate. He was involved and had put some things together. There was some pieces made on a website called Cop Block. And I said, yeah, all right, I'll take a look at the video. She said, can I give him your number? He can only call you out from the prison. And I said, no. I said, don't give him my number. Don't give him any of my information until you hear from me. And I have an opportunity to look at the video and process what I see. And she says to me, okay, fine. So I go back, we finish breakfast, and I go back to my office, and I'm sitting down, and I find a video online. I find various versions of it online, but I find one that's got sufficient information on it for me. And I sit and I watch the video. And a certain section pops up, which troubles me, completely freaks me out. I roll the video back, I look at it and watch it again, and at this point in time, I'm sitting here questioning my own sanity. And I call a friend of mine into the office, and I say, listen, just do me a favor, sit down in this chair, watch this for me, and tell me what you think. And we roll the same piece of video back. And he looks at me, and he goes, what just happened, just happened? And he's a retired attorney, and I go, yeah, I believe so. And we recognize the fact that a 12-second piece of video changed our perspective on Jeff Weinhaus almost immediately. And in that 12 seconds where he steps out of his car, effectively says hello to the police officer, has some useless banter with the man, is shot 6 times.
Attorney Markowitz, can I just pause you for just 1 second? Let me ask our people, do we have that video, that 12 seconds? We saw that as well. If we have it, if you search for it, Rudy sent it to us a couple of weeks ago. If you can't find it, all right. But I want everybody to see it as Attorney Markowitz is talking about it. You listen to Attorney Markowitz, everybody and he's given his reason for representing Jeffrey Weinhaus and how it all got started. So we want to bring him back. I think we had your picture up a few moments ago as well. Let's put Jeffrey Weinhaus picture back up, everybody. And if y'all can find that video, we want everybody to see what Jeffrey Weinhaus is. What the Attorney Markowitz is talking about. I'm sorry, Attorney. Go ahead. Continue.
That's just clear, right? Thank you very much. So anyway, I call up Michelle and I say, give him my number. I want to talk to him. I want to hear his side. I had sufficiently convinced myself that there was a serious problem in this whole transaction. That the events that transpired, there was something to do. There's one thing when a police officer gets involved in a shooting. Typically speaking, it's a defensive move. Generally speaking, defensive move. There's another one when these events line up so that it was nothing less than either a negligent action or an attempted murder. So I had Michelle call when Michelle spoke to him again. She gave him my telephone number, and I heard from him a couple hours later. At which point we discussed what was going on, what had happened in his case, what kind of representation he had, and if there was any documentation that he had available to him to allow me to look over the case itself, the actual events in the trial court. Luckily, his supporters had managed to maintain copies of the depositions. They had managed to maintain copies of the trial records and so on and so forth, and I had all that stuff delivered to me. As I was going through it, I discovered more and more events that transpired within the trial itself and surrounding the trial that led me to believe that not only did Jeff get convicted on something he couldn't have committed, because the testimony and the video don't work with each other. The testimony of the officers...
Let me just stop you right there. You're saying he was convicted of something that he could not have committed, and the testimony in the video do not... whose testimony? The testimony of the
police officers.
Police officers. All right, okay. I want to make sure about that.
The testimony of the two... The entire trial sequence revolves around testimony of two Missouri Highway Patrol officers who were involved with Jeffrey from the initial contact to the period of shooting and his arrest. The evidence itself that they convicted him on, in my opinion, was a video that he published in August of 2012. Now, Jeffrey is a politically active individual. He's got opinions he shares with the public. He's a born-again Christian, and he's a preacher. So he wraps up his videos with a lot of to some people, offensive material. On the other side, just general conversation. He published a video, and on that video of August, I believe it was August 16, 2012, he basically told the elected officials that we've had enough, that our rights have been violated, we know they've been violated, we've had enough, it's time for you to go. If you don't go, we're going to arrest you, we're going to try you, and in some cases we're going to execute you. But he never crossed the line. He voiced an opinion, a political opinion, which we all take for granted in most cases, as protected by the First Amendment.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So from that video, from the publication of that video, about 2 weeks later or so, he gets a visit by two Missouri Highway Patrol officers at his home. The two officers at his home, according to their depositions, knock on his front door. The front porch of his home is relatively crowded and small. They ask to speak with Jeffrey about his video. He says, fine. He steps out of the house, and they walk over to the end of his driveway by his car, and they have a conversation. They ask about the video. He discusses positions. He discusses perspectives. He discusses the fact that he's been involved politically and socially. And they, according to the officers' own statements in their depositions, they didn't find him as a threat. They didn't find him as a problem. They had gotten a complaint from a judicial officer who has yet to be named, who thought that the video was directed at them, and everybody had to pardon me for saying so, their panties in a bunch. Everybody was upset about this. This guy's a threat. This guy's crazy. This guy's nuts. He's going to do something. And he picked Constitution Day, which is September 17th, as a theoretical deadline for him to step out and let's start over again. At which point, the officer said to Jeffrey, one of us smells marijuana. We'd like to search your home. And he goes, no. So they deny him entry into the house. They handcuff him and they hold him and they say, well, you're not going back in. We're going to go get a search warrant. So while one of them holds him, the other one spends 4 hours looking for a judge to sign off on a search warrant on an allegation that he smells marijuana. He comes back. Jeffrey is still restrained. They start searching the house. They search upstairs. They search downstairs. They search Jeffrey's, I'm using air quotes here, but command center, the place where he works and makes his videos and publishes his bulletin. They find less than 1/10 of an ounce of marijuana in a plastic bag in the basement on the top shelf. I'm going to guess it's 50 feet plus from the front door. So one of those officers got a pretty good sense of smell, especially if it's locked in a plastic bag halfway across the house.
I'll say, the hound dog.
But hey, it gets better. Jeffrey had hurt himself, got a prescription for morphine. They found a tab and a half outside of a prescription bottle in a container in his desk drawer or on his desk or in the general area. They confiscate that. They confiscate the marijuana. They confiscate a potpourri bottle that they thought might have been marijuana as well. They also took his 3 computers. They took his video equipment. They took his ability to, in effect, they took his printing press. They silenced him. And the man was he was a freelance journalist, a publisher. They basically put a cap on him and taped his mouth shut. Now upstairs in the master bedroom, they identify a 9mm pistol in a flap holster, a retention holster. I don't know if you shoot or if you're familiar with firearms, but if you've ever seen any of the old movies where the soldiers jump out of an airplane, they usually have something that keeps their weapon tight to their body, retained, so that it doesn't go flying off when they come out of that jet. They come out of the plane at high speed.
Right.
The pistol was in a flap-style holster, which was designed for retention, in his desk drawer, in his nightstand drawer. The officers leave the weapon. Now remember, they've already confiscated what they assumed to be a large quantity of marijuana. They confiscated his computers. They took his video equipment. They took morphine. They didn't take the gun. Makes you wonder. They claim that they identified the weapons belonging to his wife. But there were 3 people in the house, Jeffrey, his wife, and his son. Why take all 3 computers?
Right, absolutely.
Needless to say, they did. We fast forward approximately another week, maybe 2. Jeffrey's attempting to get his personal property back. He wants his stuff back. He makes several phone calls to Missouri Highway Patrol. He does he does anything he possibly can to make them want to get his stuff back. He gets a phone call from one of the officers, from the sergeant that was involved. And the sergeant that was involved says, we're going to give you your stuff back. Meet us at the gas station. It's about a mile from your house.
Wait, Mark, wait a minute. They found marijuana. He wasn't charged with illegal possession of a drug. They found his computers. They did not discover anything on them untoward. They're going to return all this to him. Are we fast forwarding to a return of the information, the things that they confiscated out of his house? Is that what you're doing?
There's 2 things here. First, Missouri statutes require that highway patrol officers execute and apply for a warrant with the knowledge of the local law enforcement, the chief law enforcement officer of the county. They never went to the sheriff of the county to inform him that they were getting a search warrant. That's number 1. Number 2, they never informed him that they were executing a search warrant. And number 3, according to Missouri statute, that search warrant requires, because they're highway patrol, the presence of a representative of the sheriff.
Right.
Never present.
Okay, I got
it.
So
the search warrant itself it may have been proper on its face, but it was defective in its execution and application, and it should never have been granted based upon those factors. And the evidence collected should have been considered fruit of the poisonous tree, because the warrant was not executed properly.
Right, of course.
We fast forward to the time at the parking lot. Jeffrey gets himself a phone call. They say, okay, we'll meet you here at so-and-so time. he decides to go around looking for somebody to give him a hand and be with him as a witness to see what's going on, because he was concerned of his own safety. He was wearing that same 9mm pistol on his left hip in a flap holster, Jeffrey's right hand. So he was wearing a cross-strap. Why? Couldn't buckle the seatbelt otherwise. He was in his car.
Gotcha.
So, as he's approaching the gas station, he's got his wife on the phone recording the conversation on audio. He has a watch on his left wrist that he was made a gift of that was a video recording watch. And during this whole period of time, he's recording the video. He's recording the transactions, the events up beforehand. He's recording the approach to the gas station. He's recording him stepping out of the car. He's recording his own attempted execution. Because 12 seconds after he stops the car, rolls the window down, and steps out, they shoot him.
Now, are these the same two officers that came to his house earlier? Are these the same two officers or different officers?
These are the same two officers that came to his house earlier.
Well, let me ask, would you, in a part of your defense, were they stalking him?
I don't believe they were stalking him. I don't have any evidence at this point to say they were stalking him. I do believe a couple of things that are very important here. The officers themselves claim that they were carrying Glock weapons. A weapon such as a Glock pistol, if you don't hold it right, it's something called a bite mark on your hand when it discharges. That's basically what happens is the web of your hand is too high behind the hilt of the gun, and the slide comes back and literally cuts open, and it looks like a snake bite. One of the officers on the testimony during trial indicated that after he first fired his weapon, he got cut by his gun. He got bit by his gun. Well, to me, that means he wasn't holding it properly. If he wasn't holding it properly, he may have not giving him an excuse. The gun may have discharged because he panicked. He wasn't properly trained, because when he turned, this whole meeting with Jeffrey was a ruse. There was no computers in the trunk of the car. There was no desire to return the material to him. They were there to arrest him. They turned to him with weapons drawn. And after the first round, I believe the officer panicked and tried to cover his mistake. Because Jeffrey was hit in the head, the neck, 2 rounds in the chest, and went down like a sack of potatoes. They thought he was dead when he hit the ground. Now, what I didn't tell you at this point in time is that there were 2 additional FBI agents that were there to back up Missouri Highway Patrol. They were part of the narcotics division. They worked with them. They were there to back them up as for an arrest. And there were additional MHP officers stationed away from the gas station in case Jeffrey ran. I don't know why he would have run. The man's never had any history of not showing up for a court event. He's not has no violent history at all. But they were prepared in case he put up a fight. Well, just like panic takes over, they didn't discover the video of this whole transaction for almost 6 months. The fact that they had the wristwatch with the video camera in it and the video itself, they didn't know it was there, which is a saving grace, at least for Jeffrey.
Right, of course.
Now let's fast forward. We're going to skip the deposition issues. We're going to go right to trial. During trial, Jeffrey was represented for the most part by a local attorney. In my opinion, I don't know the man, but the defense, when you read the transcripts, was ineffective, incompetent. The search warrant was never attempted to be suppressed. There was no actions taken to call the FBI agents or the local sheriff to support the violation of the search warrant, or even to support the position that Jeffrey got out of his car and, as the FBI agents described in the deposition, made a beeline for the officers. In other words, he just simply stepped towards them because he had turned his vehicle tail end first into the MHP officers in order to be able to open up the trunk of his car and put his computers in.
All right, well, let me just stop you right here. You laid out a great case of defense of the facts on this case. Now, the question I want to ask, did I hear you say that the officers did not have the computers that they were supposed to be returning to Jeffrey? And then
That's correct.
He opened his car to generally, yeah, here in New York, in my understanding, if the police confiscate something and it's a fruit of a poison tree, as eloquently stated, then I would have to go to the precinct to recover it. They generally don't do home delivery. So I'm a little confused about that whole process. And I don't want to get ahead of everything, and I don't want to mar what you're saying. This thing smells to high heaven to me. That they want.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. It stinks. It stank from the minute that phone call was made. I think that's what Jeffrey was thinking. Why am I not going to the MHP office? Why am I not going to the local sheriff's department? Why am I not going to the property room?
Right.
Why bringing it to me?
Right.
Because, just for some perspective, I'm from the same neck of the woods that you're from. Okay, I'm from Long Island. I'm a Long Island kid. I'm a Jewish kid from Long Island. I grew up on the island. I worked in Manhattan. I know the neighborhood that you preach in. I'm familiar with the area. I know what you're thinking because that's normal procedure. It's the way the world works.
Right.
The cops can take it from you. You want it, you got to come and get it.
If you can still find it, but go ahead.
Here's the thing. I think that's why Jeffrey wanted somebody to go with him. I think he was concerned about what was going on. He had no knowledge of an arrest warrant. There was no indication that an arrest warrant was either pending or it was available. As a matter of fact, I asked him about it. He said he even checked. He had no problem turning himself in if he was aware that there was an arrest warrant. But he didn't know of any. My understanding is that the timing works out. I think the arrest warrant was available 5 minutes before he showed up at the office. Now, the video of his, that was taken that involved the shooting and so forth also discredited a lot of the statements of the MHP officers. They claimed he was wearing a weapon on his right side. There's a reflective photograph, an image grab from the video that shows the weapon on his left side, because it's a reflection. They said he approached the area at a high rate of speed that made them concerned. You watch the video, the man's just driving his car. There's no indication of a revving engine or a high rate speed or fast brake or whatnot. There's no indication of him spinning his car around like he's checking out the area, turning his vehicle and pulling it in. He turned the engine off, rolled the window down, and stepped out of the car like you or I would do 1,000 times a year. No, that didn't work. We get to trial. They just simply steamroll him. But the biggest problem we have now is that the trial lasted 3 days. The defense lasted about a half a day. And the whole issue involving the August video, which is what the predicate claim, the whole thing, the whole cause of this mess was the video he published in August of 2012. And what happened there was they showed the video repeated times. Now, again, Jeffrey's, for all descriptive purposes, a fire and brimstone preacher.
Attorney, let me just interject myself here into this process. I think we got a picture of Jeffrey coming up in just a second. We've been.
There you go. There you go. I'm sorry, you disappeared on me. Where did I leave off?
Yeah, we had the picture of the video taken from the watch. We've run that a few times. We got a picture of Jeffrey in that horrible orange suit. We're going to be sliding that in just 1 second. But what I want to ask is, we don't have a lot of time left on this matter. There are a couple of questions. One is that it appears to me that, and you'll have to correct me, that what you are presenting was not presented in defense of Jeffrey, and if it was, did a jury clearly understand all the things you just laid out before us? And if so, how could they find him guilty? So could you respond to what happened? Why was he found guilty with all of these things that you're saying to me now?
What happened there,
We're out in the court. There's a lot of street noise going on, attorneys, but you understand. Go ahead.
On the entire realm of charges, including the tampering with a judicial officer, the possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony with a police officer, the attempted murder for the police officer, and so on and so forth. The judge granted a motion to dismiss, motion for acquittal on a tampering with the judicial officer charge and resisting arrest. Well, by granting that charge, the purpose of the video was no longer necessary. And I'm sorry, I'm having a problem on my end. The judge granted, going back there, the judge granted an acquittal on the charge involving the video, which is tampering with the judicial officer. And the problem with that was the jury had already seen the video. They had already been poisoned against Jeffrey relating to the charges in the video. That is what, in my opinion, was a major issue that the court should have granted a mistrial immediately on the charges. They did. The court allowed them to convict him on evidence that had nothing to do with the other other events.
Okay.
It had nothing, and therein lies a major problem. There are issues involving the search warrant. There are issues involving a stun. Jeffrey was forced to wear not shackles, but a stun device, a remote control stun device on his ankles during trial. Now, this stun device by the manufacturer has a disclaimer that says this will cause severe physical pain, possibly self-defecation, and self-urination upon activation.
Wow.
And they tell this to the people that they put this on.
But Attorney, we're certainly running short on time right now. So let me try to sum up a couple of things. One is, obviously, your representation of him is on appeal. I'm assuming correctly here.
No, actually, it's not on appeal. We're actually taking this whole matter out of the state court hands. Jeffrey tried to appeal his matters to the state of Missouri and was unsuccessful. I came in and when I reviewed the materials, I decided that the best course of action for us at this point in time was a declaratory action in the federal district court in Missouri to have the case overturned based upon a violation of his constitutionally protected rights.
Okay.
We are attacking the trial based upon his First Amendment rights, his Fourth Amendment rights, his Fifth and 14th for due process, his Sixth for incompetent counsel, and Eighth for cruel and unusual punishment based upon the use of a stun cuff, which is not even authorized by the U.S. Supreme Court under any circumstances, or have defined courses of action for their use on persons charged with a crime, not necessarily those convicted. He wasn't even convicted, and they made him wear a device which interfered with his ability to not only be dignified in a courtroom, but to participate in his own defense. And they did it without the authorization of the court and no basis for such use.
Okay.
There are so many problems with Jeffrey's case.
What's your read on taking this to the federal court for the overturning of the illegal conviction of Jeffrey? What's your read on, the federal court responding to your application?
I believe that they'll respond favorably. There are so many things wrong with this trial that to ignore them would be to ignore the simple fact that the dual federal system that we operate on and the idea and concept and truth that the U.S. Constitution and the rights embodied in it are the supreme law of the land has to win out. Jeffrey could not have committed this crime. Jeffrey wasn't even convicted on the elements of attempted murder of a police officer. He was convicted because the jury was poisoned by the court and by the prosecutor on his words, his protected words, his speech. Listen, if you watch his video from August 2012, you might cringe a little bit. It's not, but he does not cross the line. He doesn't specifically identify anybody he's threatening or threaten anybody in general. He's simply making a statement that we made 200 and some odd years ago when our government wouldn't listen to us.
Amen.
But Jeffrey took that. The only thing we are looking for now at this point in time is Jeffrey needs both not only emotional.
Attorney Markowitz, I've been on the court on several occasions. I've read our statements and responses to things that are against us, mostly civil, nothing criminal as far as our church is concerned. And I always respond to our attorneys about when I find nuggets of things that they say that I think even a judge or jury that will be against us would be hard to resist the efficacy of those statements. And when you say Jeffrey could not have committed this crime, it rings a bell inside of me. So please don't lose that when you appear before the courts of justice. Keep saying that Jeffrey could not have committed this crime. It just sounds so meaningful when you say it. But Rudy, you're there. And Rudy, I got to get out of here in 2 seconds. I got a couple of minutes. Rudy, you're there. What's your summation here? And then we got to find out when the application is going to be made before the federal courts, if it's already pending for court decisions, if there have been oral arguments or whatever. We'd like to know the details about that, Attorney Markowitz, when I get back from Rudy. Okay. Rudy, what you got? What you got on this, Rudy?
No, thank you so much, Pastor Manning. And let me say that when Warren started off speaking, he said something very important. He said he's been given an opportunity to right a wrong. And how many lawyers do we know that are motivated by that? So we praise God for Warren Markowitz. I think Jeffrey Weinhaus has a great lawyer, and we praise God for Michelle Fiore out in Nevada. Let me also say, Pastor Manning, that before the interview started, you were talking about Popeye and wanting some spinach. I wish you would pass me down some in Texas because I need some of that spinach too. But Popeye said, "I am who I am," and I think in Exodus 3:14, God says, "I am that I am."
Yeah,
and God has put a unique quality in you, Pastor Manning, and I think it also exists in a few others. But it's a very unique quality that you have an incapability. You are incapable of walking away from a situation when you know there's a wrong and there's a victim that shouldn't be in prison or that should not be hurt. You have to speak up about it, and that's what we love about you, is that you are who you are, and you speak up.
Thank you, Rudy. Thank you so very much. Thank you for that. That means a lot coming from a man as honorable and as strong as you. So we're going to have Jeffrey. Right, and we got his information out there. People are listening to it. His attorney has done a stellar job of presenting his case to the American people here today. We're going to try to get this out. I'm going to ask all of our friends and supporters and subscribers to get this word out. Post this word everywhere you can. You've heard it. We're going to clip it all. It's in a major segment now. We're going to put it in a capsule segment where you can use it. Send this around the world and let people know what's happening with Jeffrey Weinhaus and hear the words of his attorney. Attorney Markowitz, so you're from New York, in Nassau County or Suffolk County? Which are you from?
Suffolk County.
Way out there in Suffolk. All right, okay, good enough. Listen, would you wrap this up on dates and times and on arguments?
Sure.
And then I got to go, but thank you so very much.
Well, first of all, I just want to put this in there. For those of you who are willing to help and support Jeffrey in regards to this matter, you can go to donate, as DONATE, freejeffnow.com. Again, that's donate.freejeffnow.com. That will take you directly to the Go Get Funding page that we've set up to help Jeff and to raise money for this. We have been carrying this. I've been carrying this for the last 9 months. The support that the Jeffrey supporters has been giving has been very gratefully accepted. But the costs of doing this for Jeff it's expensive. It's very time consuming. What we've done thus far is I have shared with Jeff, as of last week, one of the most recent drafts of the declaratory judgment, the action for declaratory judgment that's going to be filed in the Eastern District of Missouri. I expect to file it over the next week or two. I'm just asking for the supporters to help me offset the cost of doing this, and to be able to get to Jeff and to let him know that there's a face and, for all intents and purposes, a knight standing for him, a champion to bring his issues to justice, so that we can move forward with this. Once it's filed, I will share it with the entire community and the entire world. It'll be a public record, but I don't want to share drafts of the
of course
of the action. But that we're standing on a precipice, Pastor. We are right here, ready to file. It's just a matter of dollars.
All right. Now, what I'm going to do then, I hear you clearly. What I'm going to do is that we have a thing called ads and bumpers that we're going to use. I purposely did not say anything while you were talking a few moments ago to interrupt you, because I'm going to take that little clip of your voice making that appeal and the place where the donate can happen. I'm going to run that in between some of our articles and commentary that we do over the next couple of weeks as an ad on our broadcast to further generate more attention. We're going to make it up. We're going to put some video with it as well. You'll see it. Rudy will tell you about it as well. All right, listen, we have got to go. Attorney Markowitz, thank you so very much for righting wrongs. Thank you so very much for having the passion and to go out and actually do something like this to help someone who is desperately in need. Rudy, thank you for all that you do as well. You're greatly appreciated, as you very
Love
well
you guys.
know. Now, Rudy, we got to get on. You send me your next prisoner, political prisoner, and we'll be with him next week. I thought I was going to be out of town today, quite frankly, but I'm here, and so that's why we went and picked this up. But I want to get on to some other prisoners next week as well, Rudy. So
praise God, praise God. Looking forward to it, Pastor Manning.
Send that to Elizabeth. All right, everybody, thank you so very much. Rudy Davis of Lone Star 1776, and Attorney Markowitz, who's representing Jeffrey Weinhaus. A compelling, very interesting presentation here today, Sabbath. You heard that?
Yeah, I heard.
You know, the thing of it is that, you know, when the police say something that you did something, you got to prove that you didn't.
Yeah, you got to prove it.
It's one thing if they say you had drugs or this or that, but to say you tried to kill them, you know, then everybody's spirit gets against you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, there was no doubt in the statements that he made that these two police officers obviously targeted him.
Right.
So that was quite obvious.
You know,
but again, you have to prove all of that.
You know, in Brooklyn years ago, there was a police officer, a Hamite police officer, in Bed-Stuy. And all the local, you know, guys knew that this police officer hated some of the people in the community.
Yeah.
And he'd throw cases on them, kind of like in Training Day, where I said, I'm going to throw cases on you. So when they after you,
yeah, they're after you. Yeah.
Anyway, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to wrap up today's broadcast. Extraordinary interview with Attorney Markowitz here today. We'll be right back, everybody. Hang tight, Sabbath, and I'll be right back.